Welcome to this short video about researching cases by topic. My name is Katelyn Golsby. I am a public services law librarian here at UMass Law Library. And this video is intended for 1L legal skills students, but could also be helpful to anyone who wants to learn more about topical classification systems and how to use those to find case law in Lexis and Westlaw. The 4 topics I will cover in this video are why look for cases by topic, how to use the West key number system, how to use the Lexis topical classification system, and then I will end with a brief conclusion. So why research by topic? We research cases by topic because cases are published in chronological order. This is not helpful for most legal research tasks. We also research cases by topic because topic-based finding tools help you find case law that is legally or factually relevant, and sometimes both. And the last reason is because browsing by topics can show you what parts of your analysis might be missing. The goal of finding cases in legal research is to find and understand the rules of law as they apply to your client's situation, and to use that information to predict your likelihood of success. Some examples include considering the facts present in the applicable law, is your client likely to be found guilty, successfully raise a defense, or even enforce a contract. Finding judicial opinions is part of this process. Cases are the law, while also explaining the law through applying and interpreting statutes and other cases. There are 2 main tools that can help you find cases based on topic. These are the Westlaw West key number system and the Lexis topical classification system. So let's get started with the West key number system, or as I like to think of it, a topical index to case law. The key number system is a topical index that's based on headnotes. It's a way to classify cases by both broad and specific topics. Here are 3 examples here showing you how granular they can get. So in the top example, we started off with negligence, which is the broadest topic. And then underneath negligence is proximate cause, then intervening and superseding causes, then under that, unavoidable or inevitable accident, and then last, in general. So you can see here as the number next to each of those goes down, you're looking at a more and more specific topic. With notaries, it's not as deep. So notaries is the broadest topic. You'd be able to find this by browsing all key numbers. And the second point under it is about the appointment, qualification, and tenure of notaries. And the final example is trespass, which is similar to the negligence example above, where trespass has over 29,000 cases in the jurisdiction that I decided to put it in. Then under that, there's actions for trespass, evidence of trespass, and then the weight and sufficiency of that evidence, and then finally, title and possession. And you don't need to know what all of these legal terms mean necessarily to understand the West key number system. For now, it's just easy to understand that there are very broad topics and then they become more narrow. So what's the difference between a headnote and a key number? Headnotes are short statements that are meant to convey a point of law or a rule from the case. They may also briefly describe how the court applied rules to the facts in dispute. They are written by an attorney editor who works at Westlaw. Key numbers are a system of tagging headnotes so that cases can be identified by a controlled list of about 100,000 topics and subtopics. In short, the headnotes are the substantive content, and the key numbers help researchers organize that content. In this example, the headnote is to the left and the key numbers are to the right. I want to note here that you would never want to cite to a headnote within a case. Headnotes are an editorial tool. They are not the law. Even where a headnote directly quotes the case, you would not want to cite to that headnote. You would want to cite to the quote where it appears in the case. And you'll see here the headnote is a substantive piece of information that also sometimes has citations to statutes in it. This statute here is the Massachusetts General Laws Annotated, available on Westlaw. So if you found a headnote that was particularly relevant, you might also want to look at any citations within that headnote. There are also 6 cases that cite this particular headnote. To the right, you can see the key numbers associated with this headnote. And again, it starts from the most broad topic, which is criminal law, and then drills down eventually to traffic offenses. The only things that you need to start using the key number system are knowledge of one relevant broad topic and a key number that falls under that topic. There are 3 inroads to finding the right key number. First, you can review headnotes from the best cases and good cases. Second, you can browse a key number outline. And third, you could review secondary sources published by West to see if there are any relevant key numbers therein. So let's get started by reviewing a best and good case. For this example, let's assume that we have a client who would like to sue his country club after becoming injured. The case I've already found is a Massachusetts case, Salamoff v. Godfrey. While you always want to make sure that you read all of the text of any case that you think is going to be relevant, the headnotes and key numbers available can sort of help you decide whether or not that case is particularly relevant and worth reading. So here, we can imagine that perhaps this case name was provided to us in a memo or by a colleague. Or you could find one good case by really any method. You could find it through a secondary source, you could find it through a terms and connectors search. Whichever it is, from that point, you can find key numbers. So we'll pretend here that we found this case through one of those ways. If you scroll down to the headnotes, you'll see the headnote here, and then key numbers off to the side. Now there's 2 sets of key numbers associated with this headnote, and if you'll remember, my pretend scenario is that our client wants to sue his country club. So the broadest topic here is associations, then it goes down to operation and management. In general, dealings between members and organization, and torts and wrongful conduct. Others in this list might be worth checking out, but I think that the torts and wrongful conduct key number is what we're looking for here. So if you click there, you'll see that your jurisdiction up here can be changed. If you decide to change your jurisdiction after you've already sort of clicked through to a key number, you might want to press the search button again, and that will refresh the jurisdiction. But we're going to stick with Massachusetts for this example. So what you can see here are there are 14 cases in Massachusetts state jurisdiction that talk about torts and wrongful conduct within the context of an association. And this is how you might find additional relevant case law. Aside from using your best or good cases, if you find a good secondary source for your issue, you should also see if there's a relevant key number identified in that source. Unfortunately, key numbers are only identified for treatises, legal encyclopedias, and other secondary sources published by West. But you want to take note of a good key number when you come across it so you can revisit it later. So for this example, I decided that we needed to find something that was just generally about negligence, and I chose the West publication, American Jurisprudence. And you'll see here right at the top, it will provide you with the relevant key number. It will also provide you with other relevant sections of this particular material and other treatises and practice aids whenever relevant. And it really is as simple as that. The last way that we're going to use the West key number system for this video is browsing topics. So here I already have the West key number system pulled up, but I do want to show you how I got there. And the easiest way is to go to the search bar right after you log in and type in key number. And under content pages, you'll see West key number system. That is the easiest and most straightforward way to get there. Next, you will see the list of all of the very broad topics that are available in the key number system. So there's 414 broad topics, and then each of these is usually divided up into at least a few subtopics, and some of these topics will be divided into many different subtopics. So let's go ahead and select one. We're going to pick negligence. And you'll see here that negligence has a lot of different options underneath it, some of which actually expand into additional topics. And this is also very useful to browse because you can see an outline of all of the different considerations to make when you think you're going to make a negligence claim. Let's learn a little bit more about breach of duty, and we're going to try it in general. So if a duty exists and it was breached, this would be a good key number. And you'll see here again, the jurisdiction I have set up is Massachusetts. So this number means that there are 33 cases in Massachusetts that have head notes, which are identified as being relevant to the topic of breach of duty in general. Now that we've covered the West key number system, let's move on to the Lexis topical classification system. So you may wonder, how is the Lexis topical classification system different than Westlaw's? Lexis's topical classification system is only available online, whereas Westlaw's key number system is available for print resources that were published by West. Lexis has significantly fewer subtopics. Topics won't be available in a secondary source like they are for many sources in Westlaw, and the look and interactivity of both databases is different. Some people prefer one over the other. So how does it work? Headnotes, much like in Westlaw, are written for a case and then later assigned a topic. Each headnote is associated with one or more topic, and there are two ways that you can find and use Lexis headnotes. You can start with your best and good cases, or you can browse topics. So let's get started by reviewing a best and good case. Here is Hayatella v. Boston. Where you would find the headnotes on a case in Lexis is usually under the summary, and you'll see Lexis Nexis headnotes. These are the different topics here. The headnote itself is right here, and again, that's sort of the substantive aspect, right? Now, this part is about the assumption of a risk in a torts case. So let's go ahead and look at express assumption of risk. Each one of these cases has to do with a person expressly assuming a risk in a torts case. Another way that you can use the topic in headnotes is by clicking on the headnote itself, and you can see what's being cited with that information in the case. You can also click more like this headnote. And what this will do is it will identify similar language in different cases that is applying the same law, possibly to similar facts, but that's not always the case. So if you click the headnote number, it will bring you directly to that area, and you can go ahead and select a case and probably read it because it's going to be relevant to this statement. If we go back up to the top, we're going back to headnote 4, and let's see more like this headnote. Up here, it will remind you that this is the case that you found the original topic in. And then when you go to narrow the headnote, it's going to show you other cases with similar headnotes in them and similar topical coverage. The other way that you can use the West topical classification system is by browsing topics. So once you log into Lexis, this is what your page should look like. And there are a bunch of tabs here. You would want to click Topics and then select a topic. What we'll do here is we will select torts. And from here, you'll get a list of topics that fall under torts, like negligence. And here are some defenses to negligence, elements of negligence. And once you click through, you'd find cases that fit under that topic within your desired jurisdiction. Now here, I did not specify a jurisdiction, so we'll go to court. And we'll select Massachusetts. And here you'll see there are 1,236 cases that are identified as being about the breach of duty under negligence. A few last words before I end this video. As a reminder, do not ever cite to a headnote or a key number in a legal document. They're tools, they are not the law. If you can't figure out a relevant headnote or key number right away, consider different words for what you might be looking for. And don't forget that you can also search within key numbers and topics. Sometimes this works well, and sometimes it doesn't, so prepare to be flexible in your approach. If you have any questions, please email me at kgolsby@umassd.edu. And for general questions to the Law Library, please email lawlib@umassd.edu. For additional helpful videos, also check out our YouTube channel at UMass Law Library 2458. Thank you for your time and attention.